Life in the midst of the pandemic has been challenging for everyone, but it's especially difficult for those of us who are grieving the loss of a pet. Today we're going to talk about grieving pet loss in a time like this and some things that might help. I've included timestamps in the description below so that you can get an idea of what we're going to cover, or just hop to the portion that you're most interested in. First of all, losing a pet is an extremely painful and stressful experience all by itself without a pandemic and a global recession. Grieving a pet brings up all kinds of painful emotions like sadness, loneliness, powerlessness, regret, guilt, even anger. A lot of us love our pets very deeply. They're members of our family and constant companions who have been there for us in ways that perhaps no one else in our life has. Our pets love us unconditionally, and that kind of love is super special, especially in times like this when the world feels chaotic and unsafe. You might be feeling like you've not only lost a beloved family member, but also something that brought tremendous stability and comfort and peace to your daily life. So please know that any feelings you might be experiencing right now are totally valid. And it's understandable to be having a really hard time no matter what your circumstances are. Now, perhaps your pet isn't the only thing you've lost this year. A lot of us have lost jobs, income, businesses, homes, maybe even friends or other family members. And at the very least, we've lost our regular routines and normal way of life. And that's a lot of loss. And when you pile loss upon loss and stress upon stress, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and depressed. Psychologists call this compounded or cumulative grief when we experience multiple losses back to back. And it can make it really challenging to cope and sort out your emotions because you're having to deal with crisis after crisis. You may be feeling like you aren't getting a chance to fully grieve one experience before another loss hits you and drains your already limited emotional resources. You might even be feeling like you've been traumatized or are just going emotionally numb from all the overwhelm and anxiety. Or maybe you just find yourself vulnerable to unhealthy coping mechanisms in a way that you haven't been before. It's really important to recognize that when we're dealing with multiple losses, grieving is even more complicated. We can't just bundle all of our losses together and have one really depressed week and be over it. Each loss needs to be grieved and processed, and that takes time. And while you may be tempted to avoid dealing with your emotions or your grief right now, I would encourage you to engage even in small ways with feeling your feelings because it will really help the healing and grieving process. Now, on top of pet loss being painful and the global pandemic complicating our grieving experience, it needs to be said that pet loss is also not something that everyone understands or appreciates. In our society, you can tell someone that your mother died or your husband died, and people understand that you're in pain and going through a difficult time. But if you say my dog died or my cat died or my hamster died, most people will be sympathetic, but a lot of folks just won't get the depths of your sorrow. And if those people are your friends or your coworkers or maybe even your family, that can make things extra painful. They may forget to check in with you after only a week has gone by, or ask when you're going to get another pet, or say hurtful things like, "It was just a dog, just a cat, just a hamster." If you're reluctant to talk about your feelings because the people around you just don't know how to offer a compassionate response, I get it. You're not alone. A lot of us grieving the loss of a pet feel like we're alone in the process, but actually the exact opposite is true. One of the biggest reasons why it's important for me to talk about pet loss is because I felt that way. And once I realized that I wasn't alone or abnormal, it really helped me. It's been a huge comfort to recognize that so many people have struggled with the exact same thoughts and feelings that I have. And I hope in some small way this channel can offer some of that comfort for you as well. But now, what are some things that we can actually do to help ourselves through this process? First of all, I think it's really important to spend time acknowledging and validating the unique role and meaning that your pet has had in your life, because it can help you understand why losing them is such a big deal and process the emotions that you might be feeling. You can do this a lot of different ways. You can make a list, you can journal, you can talk to someone supportive. To give you kind of an idea of what this can look like, when I lost my dog Chubby, this guy here, It really helped me to sit down and actually list out all the things that our relationship had meant for me and the history that we had shared together. And it allowed me to feel just a little more settled in my own skin, as well as set me up to celebrate the time that we had together. Another thing that helped me was to create a dedicated grieving time each day. Now I'm gonna delve a little bit further into this in the next video, so I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications if that's something you'd be interested in watching. But basically it was a short period of time each day that I turned off all distractions and just allowed myself to cry and think about my pet, talk to my pet, feel my feelings. If you're someone who tends to bottle up your feelings and push them down and then maybe later kind of explode, this can really help you gradually come to terms with your emotions in a more gentle way. And if you're someone who feels like your feelings are just bleeding out everywhere all the time, this can also be a really great way to practice containing yourself so that you're still able to work and take care of your family or whatever other responsibilities that you have. Now, I'm not saying that we can control our grieving process, but I just found that doing this helped me move through my grief in a healthier way. Finally, your grief could probably benefit from some outside support. And this is an ideal time to find a counselor or a therapist to process your feelings and your experience. And there are professionals out there who actually specialize in grief and loss, and even pet loss. With the pandemic, a lot of therapy has moved online. And as someone who has been in therapy for years now, I can say it has been one of the best investments that I have ever made. The Association for Pet Loss and Bereavement also has online meetings specifically for those of us who are dealing with pet loss, and I encourage you to check those out as well. I'll include links to that in the description below. I'll be talking more about pet loss and coping strategies in the upcoming videos, so if you're looking for extra support, I encourage you to subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you'll be notified when I post a new video. And until then, thank you so much for watching. Please take extra good care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.